Aneesha, bem-vinda. Welcome here.
Thank you.
And I'm very happy to meet you. Porque há muito tempo que eu escuto falar dela na minha vida de buscadora, né?
Since long time ago, she hears about you. She's a seeker, you know. Then she hears about you a lot on her path.
Estou muito feliz com essa entrevista e com essa conversa.
She's very happy with this talks and with this interview, she says. Okay.
Yes, thank you. It's really great to be here with you. I've heard that you're. In fact, I watched one of your interviews. I watched Rahasya, and yes, and it's lovely.
Yeah.
Okay, it's funny because we are somehow creating connections with people who otherwise would be isolated with this pandemic situation. You know, and for me, especially for me and for Divya also, it's making good job because it's terrible the situation here now. So it's 1 year already. I'm home. I almost don't go out. Luckily, I can work from home, but it's terrible. So it gives us comfort in this Osho's loving atmosphere. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for being so generous.
My pleasure.
Come. Okay. The first question we always ask with everybody is, how did you meet Osho? How Osho came into your life? What happens? How it happens?
Okay, well, when I was about 25, I had finished my training in Reiki and breathing and emotional release work. And I was living at Esalen Institute, which is in California. And it was the first growth center, the first institute for the human potential movement. So I was starting my practice teaching there. And it was the atmosphere there. There were all kinds of spiritual teachers coming through and all kinds of group leaders working in cutting edge ways. And so, you know, one heard about many masters coming from faraway places. And in that atmosphere, I heard about Osho. I heard about this Indian guru, and I was also working in London at that time, and I was working in the same center as Viresh. You know Viresh from the Humaniversity.
Yeah.
So I was in one group room and he was in the group room across the hall, and all this encounter and yelling and screaming and all these orange people running up and down the stairs, you know. And I said, who are these people? They were wild, you know. And I heard, that these are Osho sannyasins. And that was my first real contact actually with sannyasins. And I just started hearing about Osho and reading him. And I was also at the time, I was looking for a master. I was in an atmosphere where seekers were very present, and many people were finding yoga masters and meditation masters. So I also wanted a master, you know, that could take me further than I was, you know. And so hearing about Osho, about this master, this guru, who was also using Western psychotherapy. He was inviting, you know, group leaders from England and Germany and America to come and be part of his program of combining meditation and Western psychotherapy as a really complete therapeutic process for Western people, especially, to move through. So, and I thought, wow, there's this, he's inviting group leaders like me to do that, you know, their work there, and to learn how to meditate, and to you know, learn from him. And so I was drawn there, absolutely drawn to this, because the dynamic meditation was very much like the work that I do. You know, I work with breathing and movement and catharsis and silence and relaxation. And I felt if there is an Indian master, a spiritual master who is teaching those kinds of things, he's my master. This is the man I have much to learn from. And so I went there, and knowing I went there dressed already in orange. I knew I was going to take sannyas. And I mean, my first morning there, I had just arrived from the West, and I had checked into this dreadful hotel, you know, and I got into the ashram, and I just kind of sat down in the garden and started to cry, you know, and say, what am I doing here? What, you know, because with jet lag and the first time in India, it was really quite disturbing in the beginning. So then I went in, and I made an appointment to see Osho, and then I took sannyas, and you know, and from then on, and then I spent 2 months in the ashram the first time, and I did a few groups, participated in a few groups. I did the encounter group, and I did vipassana, and of course listened to Osho, and met the people, and was welcomed by the people in the ashram. You know, there were not that many people, and everyone was welcomed, like, you know, joyfully. And yeah, so that was how I first came to Osho. I came really through the group work, you know, the therapy work. And as someone who was a seeker in a way for many years anyway, it was coming to Osho was absolutely the natural next step in my outer work, and also in my inner work.
Wow.
So,
Wow. What year was it that you came to India first time?
First time, 1976.
76. Wow.
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
And yeah, I just thought I had died and gone to heaven. You know, it was like, I had to go back. I had to go back to the West, and had some more work to do in London. But 8 months later, I was back. Actually, I came back very quickly in between for 2 weeks, because I just had to come. But anyway, then I came back in 77 to stay. And I was just, then Osho invited me to lead groups. And so I started doing that. And yes. And of course, there were many, many, you know, people like me around the same age, you know, mid-20s, newly trained in some kind of therapy, or some kind of, you know, primal work, or body work. And really, we had this you know, this little group department, you know, and we had each group leader led their own style of group. And Osho, you know, he gave me a group. He said, okay, you're going to do a group, and it's called Anatta. Anatta means no self. And I said, okay. You know, I no self did not mean a whole lot to me at the time, you know. What? Okay. And but I was leading emotional release work, which is not actually very meditative, you know. But yeah, so I was leading this particular group. It was a 5-day group down in the therapy chambers And it was, you know, a lot of catharsis. And of course, we all worked without our clothes at that time. It was like we would walk into the group room, take off the robes, and start dancing, you know. And it was, of course, you know, shocking to the new people, but it took about 3 minutes for people to get used to it, you know. And just by doing that, a whole load of conditioning came off, you know, just being in the group without your clothes. It was a very confronting, but a very easy thing to do, actually. So, yeah.
Ai, que lindo. What's the meaning of your name?
Yeah, so I'm Deva Aneesha, and it means divine godlessness. So no God. So so
And
the
how
name was there is no God, okay. And then he gave me a group, there is no self, okay. You know. And I was there so full of myself, you know. And he's saying, let it go, let it go. Yeah.
and then you follow Osho up to Rajneeshpura and everything, and back to Pune.
Yes. Of course, there was the time after Pune 1, there was about a year gap, you know, when the ranch was getting ready. And so I was living in London at the time. I was after Pune, I stayed in Europe, and I was with Poonam, who was running the Osho Medina Center in England. So I stayed there for a year and led groups in her center. And then when the call came for the group leaders to come, I went. And yeah, so I was at the ranch for about 4 years. But during that time, I did not lead groups. It was interesting because I got to the ranch, and as I mean, there were not many people there who were doing groups, so we didn't really get to lead very many groups in the beginning, you know, at the ranch. And my alternative work, you know, the other work that I was meant to do when I was not leading groups, was I was in construction. I was, you know, building the houses and hammering and sawing, and I loved it. I loved the physicality of it. I loved the amount of energy that was being created building the ranch, you know. And to me, it felt much more adventurous to do that, you know, to get into that work than to be a group leader. So I asked, can I be in construction? And they said, yes. And so I wasn't a group leader for the whole time I was on the ranch. I was just a, you know, kind of just working away in different departments. And yeah, it was great. It was beautiful. And then after the ranch, there was, of course, the gap when Osho was on the world tour. And I did happen to see him in Greece once there at that time. But anyway, we didn't come back to India until about a year later. And so then I went back to Pune and started leading groups again.
You know what I remember from you was
What?
a thing called Sufi dance. And
Yeah.
you were singing around noon. You were singing Buddha Hall.
Mhm.
I would always come because I loved it.
Uh,
God, you laugh.
Georgie. So yeah, honestly, Sufi dance was one of the best things I learned in Pune, you know, and leading it has always been something that I adored, and I still do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have some records from that time.
Yeah.
I think I got it from a cassette tape.
Uh-huh.
It was wild songs or something like that.
This was
Socrates,
somebody else made that. Savita made that.
yeah,
Mine
but
was
it was not from you, but the same songs, you know, or
yes,
similar songs. Noite
absolutely.
Laço, Iquiteiro. I remember interacting with people in the circle, going around, and one day I just, in the end, I burst into tears. That was
Yeah.
so touching. I never missed it all the time.
It's true. And you got to meet all the people coming, and it was one of the best things, really. Mm.
O Sufi Dance é a mesma coisa é o giro ou era uma prática própria?
She's asking what was the Sufi dance. Could you explain to her? Because I was there, but she wasn't.
Okay. Well, Sufi dancing was brought to Pune by a woman who had studied with Pir Vilayat Khan. Her name was Anita. And so these were simple songs, you know, songs that sing of spiritual qualities of different kinds or celebration kinds of qualities. And so the songs were there and worked with different gestures, singing the song, making these gestures, whirling, turning, looking again. So it's a celebration, it's a prayer, it's a social event, you know, and it's so many things, you know, but all full of light and beauty and uplifting.
You
Yeah.
know, I'm not a musician, but my wife is. So she's a singer. So we called some friends, and I taught them to sing Jorge Lasso, Iquiteiro, Ititai, Tai, Timorai, Oranica. You remember
Yes.
this one? Yeah?
Yes.
George
Yeah.
Lasso is a marriage song, you know, all the play with the girl and the boy, the man and the woman,
Yes.
yeah?
Flirting and
Flirting.
yes.
In a
Scolding.
movie about Nelson Mandela, they sang it in a football
Really?
stadium. Yeah, yes, I heard it.
Oh, that must have been wonderful. Yeah.
Salame Blana Bagwan.
Yes. That song I wrote, actually.
Olha,
Salam
uau.
Ivana, yeah. Yeah.
Was a great mix of songs. And then we called some friends and we played here where I live in the south of Brazil, Porto Alegre, it's called the place.
Mhm.
We went around with this playing different style. You know, my dream was make like you guys made in a circle with all the interaction and the prayer, but it was not possible. So we played in the bars and venues like that. So, but
Yeah.
we printed the lyrics,
Words.
yes, and gave it to people, all sang together, and it was very,
Ah.
very impressive atmosphere because people always would come to us and say, what does these songs have? What is the secret of it?
Yeah, I feel one of the things that those songs have is innocence. You know, they really allow us to be innocent or silly or, you know, to lose our self-consciousness. Yeah.
Very, very beautiful. E
Yeah, there's another one. How is it? Lila, lila, lila,
Life is
lila.
just a play. Yes.
eu queria falar do outro trabalho pela qual ela é muito famosa aqui, que é a Pulsation, né? Queria que ela falasse um pouco desse trabalho, porque foi uma vida toda trabalhando com muito movimento, né, das pessoas, e eu tenho essa curiosidade.
She is curious about pulsation, and she wants to talk about this work because she's interested in.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's a beautiful work. I mean, I trained in that work. It wasn't called, I call it pulsation, but it was called Neo-Reichian emotional release work. And I trained, that was the original thing I trained in my early 20s. And yeah, it's a work, we work with breathing to start to energize the body and get the life energy flowing. And when there's more energy flowing through the body, it starts also to activate anything that we have been repressing. You know, if we've been swallowing our tears, if we've been holding back our anger, once we start to energize the body, those things get touched again, whatever we've been holding down. And we start to then also invite movement of the body, expressive movement, which gives a chance for those energies, those emotions to express. It's not to say that emotional release necessarily is the goal of the work, but it often happens because there are so many energies we've been holding inside. So once we start to wake up those energies and move them, you know, just like in dynamic, it's the same principle. In dynamic, we breathe and the energy gets bigger and then we explode. And so this pulsation work works on the same principle of charge, working with energetic charge in the body, and discharge or releasing. And there are many different practices, many different kinds of exercises that work with different areas of the body. We work a lot with the eyes and the mouth and everything that's held in the jaw, yeah? And the shoulders carry tension and the back of the neck and the hands all down through the body, the chest, the diaphragm, the belly. So we work with the blocks, the energetic muscular blocks in the body through breathing, through sounds, working also letting go sounds, and movement, so that bodies that have been tense and tight and repressed and closed down, those bodies become more vibrant, more alive, more juicy, more naturally expressive, and able to, like with pulsation, we gradually let go of whatever is preventing our full aliveness. So yeah, so what results is relaxation. And what I love about pulsation too is that it really prepares the body to go very deep in meditation. It's like once the body releases the tension and holding that's there, the body is very spacious and it's very easy to fall deeper inside when one is released of repression and holding. So yes, and even though in pulsation we do work with very deep, old, emotional, primal feelings, and we take deep dives into darkness, but we also then come up, we come back again, and when we come back, we bring with us a fresh energy, a new aliveness, and an expanded awareness. So so we don't just stay in the darkness. We again and again bring it back to, we dance a lot in the groups. We do Sufi dance also. And yes, and of course we use meditation always to support this really inner journey. And of course the meditation is something that came into pulsation when I came to Osho, you know. So the use of meditation and music and flow. I think with Osho, the whole thing became more juicy and more deep.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, when you were talking, many times I would say something and you say that word, you know, aliveness. And yes, yes, that happened.
Também.
Today, I was at home, yeah, working and thinking. I thought, wow, I'm very lucky. We are lucky that we have Osho in our lives. We are really lucky people, because it's, I don't know what would be without Osho. I would be in a mental hospital or in drugs or something. Osho saved my life, absolutely. And he told me the way home. And that's it. That's it.
Yes.
And how we can see, yeah, I see Osho when I look at you, you know, I see Osho because Osho is that, you know, Osho is it, Osho is us, and so alive and so fresh, and also with presence and silence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How is Osho in your work?
Well, mm, I mean, Osho has so many different colors, and he's influenced me in so many different ways, you know. I think he gave me a lot of permission to let the work be as wild as it wants to be. You know, that's one thing. He gave me huge permission to be really alive, really expanded. And at the same time, this incredible spaciousness that happens around Osho, the space that he held for us of meditation and silence, and yeah, just all that interior space is something that I feel I gained through being with Osho and understood in my own body, and I feel like I can also begin to transmit that also. But yeah, I mean, he encouraged me to, I mean, not personally, but he encourages us to not be too serious, to not
Yes.
get too caught up in, and so for me, you know, I work with issues that are very serious to people, that are very, you know, and people take things very, you know, it's hard, but to always, you know, remember this too shall pass, and there is light even when we're in the darkness. We can, it's like he brought light in into every corner of my body, it feels like. And
Wow.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, for someone who was so still and so quiet, he managed to generate so much aliveness in those around him, you know? And
Yes.
I feel, I mean, especially when I talk about this stuff, I get turned on, you know? There's something roaring inside me just talking about it, because he has poured that into me, you know, and it's overflowing simply. And that and that's why I love leading groups, because I have a space that I can pour into, you know, and that's very precious to me. And I really look forward to getting back to in-person work, you know, because Zoom is great for the moment, but it's not my medium. You know, I can't really do my work through it.
One day we're gonna get through this, and we're gonna
Oh, yeah.
celebrate a lot, presents and hugs. And I
Yeah.
really appreciate if you come to Brazil, we can meet somehow, or maybe come to your work. Who knows?
Yes.
Yeah.
Where do you live? Where do you
I live in
live?
the south. I live in the south of Brazil, and she lives in São Paulo.
São Paulo.
Oh, okay.
Like,
Well, I mean, I will come there as soon as it's safe. You know, I always come in June and December. And if it's possible in December, I will be there, you know.
Ai,
okay,
vamos
okay.
torcer.
Yeah.
Aye. And tell us about your book.
Oh, my book. Well, yeah. The book, actually, I wrote that book when I was uh, also working on the work that I call tantric pulsation. It's like the pulsation has in a way two branches. One is the pulsation and one is the tantric pulsation. And so when I wrote my book, I wanted to, because for me, pulsation and tantric pulsation are totally connected. So I wrote the book with the whole, you know, theory and explanation about the pulsation work, but I also carried it on how it applies to the much more subtle and delicate tantric pulsation. It's like pulsation gives us a chance to release the negative, the hard stuff, and tantric pulsation also works with energy, but works more with pleasure, softness, flow, all of those things that become possible once you've released the negative hard stuff. Then you become able to relate with much more delicateness. And so I wanted to bring both of those things out in the book. And
Where we can find it? Amazon?
oh, it's available through my organizer, Sauvage, Diane Sauvage.
On your website, we can find it.
The Brazilian one, do you know Sauvage? Do you know?
No.
He's my organizer. He's in Belo Horizonte. Check through Prashanti. Prashanti knows all the information.
Okay, great.
Yeah, but that's how you can get it. Or maybe you can get it online somewhere. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Divya?
Yes.
Eu quero saber só se tem algo mais que ela queira compartilhar com os sannyasis que vão assistir.
She wants to know if you want to share something with Brazilian people who will see you on the Facebook, on Facebook or YouTube.
Yeah, well, I mean, I know that Brazilians love Osho very, very much, and that there's a very strong movement of Osho in Brazil. And yeah, I mean, what to say except keep meditating, keep celebrating, keep diving into your own inner self, you know, and never stop. Keep going, keep meditating, keep using the tools that Osho gave us, because, you know, often we feel, you know, we do a few groups, we meditate for a few years, and then we feel, okay, done, good, finished, you know, and then, you know, we go down again because life is like that. And I feel like it's so important that we remember that we have those tools in our hands. If we're in sannyas, if we've been doing groups, we have those tools. And my utmost suggestion is, let's use them. You know, don't just say, okay, done, finished.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And keep singing, yeah?
Keep singing, keep dancing. It's, you know, one thing that I've done during the pandemic, when it began, I had just come from a 3-week retreat in India. an Osho retreat in Dharamsala at Osho Nisarga. And so I had been doing dynamic and Kundalini every day for 3 weeks and sitting for many hours a day in total silence, no words, no nothing. So meditation was really in my system when I arrived back in America and went into lockdown. So I mean, I've been doing Kundalini almost every day since last March, you know, and that has carried me. That's one of the things that's carried me through. Absolutely. And, you know, just to keep the body loose, to keep the energy flowing. There's so many easy ways to do that. Like you say, singing, dancing, breathing, you know, all of those things. I feel that it's important to keep the body alive and juicy and orgasmic, you know? And
absolutely. Wow.
yeah.
I think that's it, Divya.
Okay.
Okay.
Good.
I would just like to thank you very much. So sweet. Okay.
It was lovely to meet you both, really.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for inviting
Thank you
me.
so much. So loving. Thank you.
Yeah. I'll see you there.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure. Come soon.
Good. Yeah.
Sim.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, querida. Thank you.
Hmm.